Welcome to HR Voices, a podcast where people leaders share their side of the story. We talk about the challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them, and what changes they hope to see as the workplace evolves. This podcast is sponsored by All Voices, the all-in-one employee relations platform. Hello and welcome to HR Voices. I'm your host, Rebecca Taylor, and I'm here with Kristin Gaarder, the Chief People Officer at Perforce Software. Kristin, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I feel like we were chatting about some really cool stuff before we hit record. So now it's like, now that we're recording, we can really kind of get into some of the pieces that we were chatting about. But before we really kind of dive in, do you mind telling us a little bit about Perforce Software and your role and, what your demographics look like, what your people look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm the Chief People Officer at Perforce Software. Perforce Software is a global software development company. We span over 30 countries. A majority of our team members are technical professionals. So think software developers, think technical support, professional services, and the global nature of the organization just brings such a wealth of experience to the organization. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how many employees do you have, roughly?
About 2,000 employees globally.
Okay. It's a healthy size, right? It's a good
Yeah,
amount of
yeah,
people to kind of be covering.
yeah, indeed, indeed.
Yeah. And so I have to ask, since you're in sort of the software space to an extent, what challenges are you facing, with the way that technology is changing so quickly now? Like, what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing, even from the seat of what I might assume to be a more software savvy company, but maybe I'm wrong?
No, it's totally true. Thanks for the question. So, I think the most significant challenge our people are facing today is just the sheer volume, pace, and intensity of change happening around them. So when you think about how fast AI has shifted the way we work and the way the world is changing around us, the pace is incredible and the volume is incredible. And so our team members are really balancing quite a few changes and trying to do it in a way that is really productive for themselves and their families. Yeah, one of the things that I mentioned is we're in over 30 countries around the world. And so the world is changing in unpredictable manners, and it's affecting our global workforce. In some places that we operate, we have had global conflict. We've had war, and that causes emotional and physical disruption for our team members and their families. And so that, from an HR standpoint, it really creates a whole different set of challenges for us in the HR team. And then, as we talked about, we're a technology company. And so our team members are curious, they're innovative. And so they are working with all the different AI tools right now. And we're piloting and testing. We're rolling out AI in our products. And so, with all that innovation and with that excitement comes a little bit of anxiety like, what does this mean for my job in the future? Maybe what does this mean for my kids? How are they going to enter the workplace? And what does the workplace look like for the next generation of people entering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of this generational question that it's funny because it's come up a few times, just as I've spoken to people too, is like there is this excitement, this curiosity, especially from groups that kind of maybe are a little bit more comfortable with experimentation. So those that are a little bit more tech savvy are, understand enough about how these tools work so they feel comfortable kind of playing around with it and learning it that way. But there is sort of this existential question of, are my kids learning the skills that they need now that they're going to need in the next 10 years when they enter the workforce or however long that might be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And think about it. The skills that we're learning today are not going to be the same skills we need in 10 years, right? The way we work is going to continue to evolve and shift dramatically, and the pace will just continue to just increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just spoke at a university to a kind of a business 101 class, as they are learning about the different functions in a corporation. And they were asking me, what skills do I need? How do I approach this? And honestly, to me, it's curiosity and critical thinking.
Yes. Please, more critical thinking in the world, please.
Yeah. Well, you have to be able to discern if what AI is providing you is actually accurate.
Exactly. Yep.
It will work.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that discernment, that critical thinking, and the curiosity, all of that combined are going to be critical skills to gain. And those are hard. Like those are
Yeah.
things that, how do you practice curiosity? How do you practice that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I think that there's sort of this call to almost go back to basics in some ways, where the challenge with AI almost it's not that it doesn't have anything to do with AI. There are challenges with the technology itself, with learning that. But I think a lot of the challenge that I've seen and that I've heard is more about the people side of it. So the navigating emotion around it, navigating the uncertainty. And I think also just navigating change fatigue, right? Because you mentioned this earlier. We're just in the last, 5 years, 6 years, we look at a global pandemic shifting, especially from the HR perspective, shifting from whatever the status quo was to fully remote, then back to whatever we're calling, whatever we're in now. And then now you introduce something like AI, which is also just changing so quickly. It's almost like, you know, I think there's almost this call to almost come back to basics to say, what are we really doing here? Let's just slow down for a second.
Yeah, we're really we're tackling this in our talent acquisition function. It's the
Mm,
first place we're really seeing a lot of impact. So to your point, right? 6 years ago, I was issuing laptops to people who
yeah,
had never had laptops so they could go and figure out how to work remote. Like, which 6 years is not a long time frame.
but
And
it
now
feels
we're
like
talking
20,
about,
doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, like humans, and how do we not hire bots or synthetic humans through the TA process, right? And how do we not get infiltrated in our talent acquisition systems to be able to really evaluate the human,
Hmm.
and what the human skill is? Yeah, I mean, so we're literally talking about, do we bring people back in for in-person interviews? Do we?
Yeah.
So some of what's old is coming back a little.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like at least then you know that they're the actual human. You can, it's funny because I remember when I was when I was a headhunter, I was in recruiting, and sometimes you would get a fake resume for someone, right? And then someone completely different would just show up, and they just didn't have those skills. That is maximized so much now because of bot accounts. People can masquerade as other people, and so I get sort of the call to almost just coming back to basics again. Is just you know if you meet face to face, at least, yeah, I know that you exist as a real human being, which is a great place to start.
Well, and honestly, I don't expect every candidate to know everything, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of where I want to see and I want to know the human that I'm
Hmm.
talking to, right? Because you want to bring people in to your organization that have those capabilities to learn, to fail fast, acknowledge when they did something wrong, and quickly work to improve it, right? And so, like, I love that human aspect of the interview process. So we'll see what the next 6 to 12 months bring for us as it relates to talent acquisition. I think it's going to
Yeah.
continue to evolve.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too, especially with, looking at how there's different talk about different talent acquisition softwares kind of coming under fire. I think it's an interesting time to kind of see how it's going to play out. And I want to kind of touch on something that we were talking about a little bit before we started recording too, that's kind of coming up again, is the concept of not having to have all the answers all the time. I think that there's a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to show up perfectly, right? And to sort of say, I know, there's no answer, there's no question that I can't answer, there's no thing that I don't know and understand. And you were talking about sort of embracing the opposite perspective, right, of just kind of like embracing failures and just being open about learning. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Um, I mean, we were talking in the context of not ever knowing the answer, right? Sometimes we're in situations, and I've talked about it, right? We are in an unimaginable time of our history. So there's nothing in the history that would tell me what to do next. And so I think we have to listen to voices, listen to lots of different voices, formulate what we believe is the right answer, and move forward. If it's not the right answer, being able to say, I did that wrong. that was not the way to go, and then pivot and keep moving. That takes a lot of humility, it takes empathy, it takes listening. But right now, this is such an unprecedented time. And I know that word is overused, but it really is, right? The word is
Yeah, it's like I've
overused.
never lived in a precedented time ever.
But at the same time, there's no history to tell me what to do at this moment in this juncture. So we just have to do what we believe is the right answer with empathy, and then acknowledge when we did it wrong.
Yeah.
Say we did it wrong and move on, right?
Yeah,
Keep going.
I agree. Especially in remote environments too, where, you don't overhear conversations in the kitchen. You don't have, there's less of that sort of casual feedback that you get when you're in HR, right? In an office environment, you might walk the floors, you might have a little bit more unstructured conversations with employees. And that doesn't really happen the same way anymore in remote environments because they're usually, when you put time on someone's calendar, it's usually for a specific meeting, there's an agenda, et cetera. And it's why I think that there is a growth in using tools that actually help to collect employee feedback, so that HR can get sort of where people's perspective is, whether it's in an engagement survey or, we see with All Voices, there's an anonymous reporting tool. It's kind of just like, you can create situations for employees to just sort of share where they're at so that you as HR can get the data that you need to act on it or acknowledge if something that you did act on, like you said, didn't go as according to plan. And, there's an element of humility, like you mentioned, that's really, really important. And I think that's how we have a chance of rebuilding trust in some environments where it may have been lost.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's one thing I think Perforce is doing really well, not to brag, but
You should
we
brag.
have,
That's what this is for.
we have people in over 30 countries. It's really hard to connect one-on-one. We're not traveling around to 30 countries on a regular basis, right? It's
Yeah.
impossible. So we do small group feedback sessions. We do listening sessions. We have town halls. We have pulse survey, engagement survey. We do a CEO survey. We have feedback forms on the. So we try to listen quite a bit to our team members and try to
Yeah.
take action based on their feedback. Again, we're not always perfect. We listen. We act where we believe it is the right place to act, and then to your point, we keep learning and we keep growing. We evolve.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
And so, we talk about challenges, right? And sort of what makes things difficult. But I'm curious, what are you excited about? Is there anything that you're working on right now that you're excited about, that you're experimenting with?
Yeah. So our organization, the People and Culture team, have embarked on a total leadership journey and a total leadership learning journey. So it's really fun, and I'm excited about it.
I love this.
I think being a leader is really difficult. Everybody has their own work they have to complete. Most leaders today are working managers, so they're managing people and they have their own tasks to do.
Yep.
And so ensuring that we are enabling our leaders to deal with the sheer volume and pace of change, to anchor their work in empathy, to me, it's a really powerful journey. So last year we focused on high performing teams. So how do you as a leader build a high performing team with a foundation of trust, being able to have conflict and deliver results? Like all of that is possible in a high
Yeah.
performing team. And then this year we're working on how do you lead that one person? So not just how do you lead your team to success, but how do you lead every single unique individual? And
Mm,
so that's the journey we're going on this year. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm proud because, that allows our leaders to feel confident in how they're leading forward and how they're engaging with their team members, and how to also acknowledge that everybody needs something different at a different point in
yeah.
their career.
Yeah. I think that's kind of, it's like this concept of, I read it somewhere. It was like the tend your garden. It's kind of just like every employee, if you think of them as a garden, like, flowers are going to need different light and water than a vegetable. And it's kind of just understanding what each individual person needs and giving them that so they can all thrive instead of just blanket practices or pieces.
Yeah. Well, and even think about in your own career, highly competent, knew everything that was going on, but then maybe you got thrown a task you'd never done before. So even at that moment, you were kind of like, I need some
Right.
help here. I need some
Yeah.
coaching. I don't need coaching all over here. I got this, but I
Yeah.
need support and I
This.
need help.
Yeah.
So to your point, you need different things at different points in your career journey. And
Yeah.
so enabling our leads, so I'm excited about it. I'm excited
I
to
think it's
enable
cool.
our leaders. I'm excited to bring them a learning journey that allows them to build high performing teams and high performing individuals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I love that
Yeah.
focus. I mean, development is something that's just so near and dear to my heart, and just, it's funny because a lot of the times, well, I used to deal with managers or employees who would struggle to give feedback, or struggle to receive feedback because they weren't sure how to take it. Sometimes they weren't sure how to phrase it in a way that was impactful, but not too abrasive, right? Or the other way around. And I think that there are a lot of great situations now for employees and managers to kind of learn how to better share feedback, that's grounded in reality and truth. It's where I see a lot of really great tools and resources, especially in the AI space, that are kind of innovating in this. And it's actually something that All Voices has seen a lot too, is that there's been more employees and managers leveraging our software to actually help manage performance as well. So
Nice.
creating performance development plans, segueing away from the concept of a PIP, right? But really putting it as like, hey, I want you to do well. It's in everybody's best interest for you to do well. Let's help you do well. Let's identify exactly what it is that you need. That's kind of where AI is really great because you can
Yes.
hyper personalize without, in a scalable way. And then just kind of let people, work the way that they need to and make it really clear on what it is that they have to accomplish. I love that.
Mhm. Totally agree. Yeah.
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 Well, we're just at time. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share? Because I feel like I could chat with you all day. I feel like I always say that, but I definitely could.
I think, I mean, I mentioned it, right? We are navigating this unimaginable volume of change that has global uncertainty, technological transformation, and, we've got people doing side hustles because they're worried about financial pressures. And so, there's just a cacophony of things that are in the world today and affecting our team members. So our goal at the people and culture function is to meet our team members with empathy. It's to meet them with stability and with clarity. And so to me, if we can foster that type of environment, I think our team members will thrive. I think it will enable them to have that curiosity, have the desire to fail fast, to be nimble. But we all need to have that as we continue to navigate the unknown.
I love that. The safety part. The safety part is what really kind of helps people be curious too. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your wins, your challenges, and for chatting with me. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.